We just celebrated the 4th of July. Let's talk about one of the writers of the Declaration of Independence. So, one of the writers of the Declaration of Independence was Ben Franklin. Yeah, I realized I kind of swerved on you there a little bit. But Jefferson was the main author of the Declaration of Independence. Part of the committee that was meant to write the Declaration of Independence was made up of both John Adams, Ben Franklin, and several other ones. Thomas Jefferson was the person they designated to write the Declaration of Independence. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and talk about Jefferson. I was just playing. So Jefferson is arguably one of the more influential of our founding fathers, especially when we look at the Declaration of Independence. The way that he wrote it, the way that he talks about life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, those are still things we are striving to have as Americans today, even if the person who wrote it wasn't perfect in the way that he wrote it. In one of the first drafts of it, he talks about slavery being the great sin of the United States, or being the original sin of the United States. It was taken out by Ben Franklin and John Adams because they didn't want to offend the Southerners, even though a Southern slave owner was a person writing it themselves. So Jefferson, like every one of our founding fathers, has baggage and is very, very complicated. That's putting it as mildly as I can for Jefferson. It is well rumored, while not substantiated in fact, it's mostly substantiated by pretty much everyone, that he did have affairs with the slaves. And a lot of those affairs, well, because slaves are in a position where they cannot consent because they don't have their own bodily autonomy, it was relationships that were without consent. And a lot of his own sons and daughters that came out of those relationships were forced into slavery as well. But Jefferson is going to be kind of the opposite of George Washington. If you go scroll through to a long time ago on TikToks, I talked a lot about George Washington and his stance on slavery. Jefferson was a scholar of the Enlightenment. He believed in humanity. He was a deist or atheist. It kind of depends on which version of Jefferson you want to read on. But he wrote in the Declaration of Independence that slavery was wrong and had some conversations about slavery being wrong. Yeah, his relationship with his slaves is just kind of weird and just gross and wrong for any time period. But he writes our Declaration of Independence. He writes the basic rights that we believe we have as United States citizens. So Jefferson is always going to have, and this is unfortunate because he was a very brilliant man, but at the same time, he's going to have that asterisk next to his name because of his position on slavery, at least in my opinion. Now, I'm not a big fan of Jefferson, but I don't actively hate the man either. I mean, he's dead and been dead for hundreds of years now, so nothing I say is really going to affect him. But there you go. Jefferson County named after Thomas Jefferson. We're going to keep these rolling.